Hello, this is Elizabeth Mower, president of BEI.
And I'm John Brown, the founder of BEI.
Each episode, we take you into the world of exit planning, sharing the stories, struggles, and opportunities of business owners and their advisors. We'll get into this episode's conversation right after this.
As an advisor, you have the technical skills to assist business owners in exit planning. However, few advisors know how to package the process and use it to drive the demand for their service. Learn how when you attend an upcoming bootcamp workshop. Visit exitplanning.com/bootcamp to see the latest schedule and to register. That's exitplanning.com/bootcamp. Don't miss the opportunity to take advantage of all exit planning can offer and to set yourself apart from the competition.
With me today is Andrew Karlen, a business attorney and BEI member, a longtime exit planner from New York. Andy, welcome.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure.
So Andy is an attorney in New York. His focus is on really family-run, family-owned businesses. In fact, even right now as we speak, he's the president of AFI. Tell us about AFI and then tell us about your practice.
Sure. AFI is Attorneys for Family-Held Enterprises. We are a group of about 70% attorneys, 30% all of the other disciplines that can work with a family business, and we are dedicated to practicing in a multidisciplinary fashion, collaborative.
Right.
That's AFI. It's a small group, but we've got from very, very large law firms down to sole practitioners. Our main events are 2 conferences every year, an annual conference, which is several days, and John and I, you and I spoke at one a couple of years ago, and then we do a mid-year conference in early November. So next spring we'll be in Nashville for the annual, and in November of this year we will be in Chicago for the mid-year.
Excellent. So you're doing exit planning, I suspect, in part because you want to help these family-run businesses. So what do you do with that family-run business? Who do you represent? And then what do you do?
There are various views on that, it can be an issue. It's important to clarify it with the clients at the beginning, and one of the issues you want to deal with at the beginning is confidentiality. Mm-hmm. If one family member tells you something that is very, very personal, are you authorized to talk to other families about it?
So you make that clear at the outset?
Yes, we do it at the outset. And typically where this comes up is when I'm working with a family business consultant, that being a person from any discipline, could be an attorney, that has particular expertise in family systems and working with family businesses. The umbrella organization here in the United States is Family Firm Institute. Mm-hmm. And FFI is much larger than AFI and has the whole spectrum of professions as well as an academic component.
So when you sit down with a family business owner, how do you start that conversation? What do you do? What do you say?
I think it depends upon the reason that I'm sitting down with them. And usually, particularly with a family-owned business, the first meeting or conversations might not be with a representative group of the family. Right. It may be with someone that has called you either because they themselves are very troubled by what's going on in their family, or they are representing the family searching for advisors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily even the owner at that point.
No, that is the best scenario, but it may be a next generation person who's trying to move the succession along and is having an issue.
Does that change how you approach the representation? Because, ultimately, you're going to be representing the owner, I'm assuming. Or not?
No, I think there are various ways to couch it. Let me answer really well by telling you a story.
Sure.
Years ago, at a Family Firm Institute conference. I was in a study session. It was part of the work necessary to get the designation as Family Business Advisor with fellowship status, which FFI gives. We were a lot of people in the room from different disciplines. We were given a very complex set of facts, like 4 or 5 pages about
Wow.
a family business.
Yeah.
And then we were separated by tables, one table for bankers, one for financial planners, and so forth, and the last one was for attorneys. And we were asked to, at our tables, and be ready to report on what advice would you give, to whom would you give it. So it came to the reporting out time, and all of the other tables reported and gave their answers, but at our table, we hadn't gotten past who's the client.
Yeah, that's a big issue for lawyers more than other professions because of our code of ethics. And it's not as though the others don't have a code of ethics. Ours is just different.
That's right.
We tend to be like one owner dogs, right? We got a client, and that's our client.
Well, I guess the legal system is based on advocacy, and you're advocating for
A position.
your client.
Yeah.
We do talk about these things. We do conflict letters at the beginning. Yes, there may be a situation where we just feel it's a non-waivable conflict.
So what do you do then?
Refer out to other advisors.
Do you still represent one person, maybe, but there's other representation for other owners or families?
That can happen, yeah. And in any work we do, I'm sure you did it when you were in practice. Take even a simple buy-sell agreement.
Right.
There are conflicts.
Yep.
And you have to inform the client, and the client, most of the time, will waive it.
Right.
But it does no good not to clarify that at the beginning, because I want the client to know about that. If there are any problems, let's get them out at the beginning. Maybe they want to go somewhere else.
And so that really is a great view of the whole exit plan process. Usually, we're going to be dealing with multiple parties. It might not even be multiple owners. It might be multiple parties. It might be the management team and the owner. It might be a child and another child. And so as lawyers, Andy and I are both lawyers, that presents an immediate ethical issue. But I think for many other advisors, that isn't an issue, but an ethical issue, but it's still a concern. So it's really important that everybody, whether it's an ethics issue or not, understand who in the heck you represent, and that there are possible conflicts.
And then in the event that there comes a point where they can't agree, that I can't represent any of them.
Yeah. So that's, but I think it's really important for people involved in exit planning process where there's multiple people to understand the position the advisor is in, and they should ask questions. Well, who do you represent? Can you represent me? Are you representing the company? Exactly what are you doing? And again, when I practiced law, one thing that was really important is a lot of the transfers we did were not third-party sales. There's not an issue. It's clear.
No,
there's two different
you represent
parties.
the company.
Yeah. You got the buyer, you got the seller, but
Yep.
in transferring the business to the management.
You can represent both the company and the owner. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really, for the owners listening into this, that's something you need to be clear in your mind, and for the advisors listening in, especially the newer BEI members listening in, that's a clarification that you need to make and be clear on.
I think,
sometimes.
well, for example, recently, a lady owns a substantial business, talking about her exit. We interviewed her 3 children.
Yeah. What happened?
Then we had great interviews with them, and we didn't look at it as an advocacy or an adversarial role. We were trying to understand the system and how we could best serve it. Because at the end of the day, the mom is my client, and she wants to transfer this business to her children, but she's got to be sure that they can handle it, or they will be good successors. So I'm doing what my client wants me to do, and you can't do that without talking to other people.
Right.
So I don't see so much of a problem in exit planning. If there are two owners in the business, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a situation now where I have two owners over 40 years, created a very successful business. One of them now is going to be bought out by the other, and they don't like each other anymore. So I haven't even spoken to the other owner, and he is represented by counsel. So it's not really an issue.
Yeah, those are all the things that can happen. But that's also what makes this whole exit planning world fun and challenging and interesting. And again, I started life out as an estate planning attorney. I don't know if you did or not.
No.
You were always a business attorney?
Yes.
But as an estate planning attorney, it's nice to help people, but I found representing people in exit planning is a lot more exciting intellectually
Oh, sure.
than doing estate planning, which tended to follow a similar pattern most of the time. The fun estate planning cases were those involving family-owned businesses.
Yeah, as you know, because we actually spoke about this, I am a big believer in adapting the 7-step process for use in family businesses. And I see several advantages to it, and that's what we spoke about at AFI.
Right, and so a lot of the, in this case, attorneys representing family-held enterprises, they don't necessarily have the planning process, the exit planning process that BEI and the BEI members have to work through all of this in an orderly, organized manner. They're just approaching it from the standpoint, I'm a lawyer, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And exit planning, first of all, it doesn't require a lawyer to do the exit planning at all, and most of our members aren't attorneys. What else in being a family business attorney should we learn from you?
Understand the family, get all of the information that you can right up front. A great way to start, if it's a family of any size, is to do a genogram.
So tell me about that.
It's a family tree.
Okay.
There's software that you can do it, and you can put in information about each family member, but you can actually see how the generations play out, and you can actually look at where the difficult relationships are.
Because they're going to tell you as they fill it out? Or?
Yes, but it becomes graphic, and you see it on the genogram. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not an expert on genograms. There are people that are, but
So you will see, will a genogram also show who the spouses of the family are?
spouses, if there's a deceased spouse and now there's a second spouse, it'll show the children, their children, and it will contain information about each.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that approach. That I can see how that could be really valuable. And it would be really easy to spot the potential difficulties, right?
Yes.
Child of a second spouse or something, whatever that might be. Yeah.
I remember being in a session at an FFI conference. It was on genograms, and the presenter actually showed how you could see triangles and actually draw them on the genogram. And by triangle, I mean two's company, three's a crowd.
Yeah. And I'm assuming these are typically not love triangles. They're
Not usually.
Challenge triangles, right? Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so that's what one tool.
Now,
I think
another
that's
thing-
unique to family-run businesses, probably.
Another very simple tool that I think is really valuable, because I think there's a certain amount of education. We have what we call the 3-circle model. I'm sure you've seen it.
Sure.
It's 3 interlocking circles there are 7 positions. So any person can be a member of the family, work in the business, or be an owner. But can also be any 2 or all 3 of those things. So right in the center where all of the circles meet are people that are owners, family members, and work in the business. And what I found that being helpful, if you look at that, if a family member looks at that, maybe they can see why another family member is taking a position that they're taking.
Yeah. Because they're not in the business, so they're not familiar
Well,
with that or whatever.
Then they're in a different position in those circles, either not in the business,
Right.
family members, that are just owners and passive, but you can see all of that, and I like to think that it can sort of temper some animosity, and someone can say, gee, if I were looking at it from her perspective, I might say the same thing.
Yeah, I like that. So you're a big believer in using images to help explain what otherwise can be pretty complicated, and maybe when you talk about it, there's too much emotion that might come out and obscure what the real picture is.
Well, I don't like to suppress the emotion. I think it's important that it come out. But yes, I do like graphics. Also keep in mind that a lot of the people at Family Firm Institute who have done the research and produced these models are from academia, or they have PhDs, or they're still in academia, and they do tend to use images and representations. But yes, I think, first of all, anytime we're dealing with clients, we want to, as far as possible, play to their particular learning styles.
Yeah.
So you have some people that are verbal and other people that might do better with an image, and if you give it to them both ways, there's a better chance that they'll understand it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have graphic images and BEI.
You're great at that.
And about the explaining process, but this is maybe something we should add.
Happy to help do it,
Yeah.
but you have great images.
Yeah. Well, it's because they're effective. It's a great way of presenting something, and then it's the ease of explanation, which is what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
I've got these interlocking charts. Well, let's look at this right here, and people will get it. Yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to help do that.
Okay.
Because BEI has great stuff.
Well, let's improve it. Let's add to it, maybe.
No, that'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be
wonderful.
great. And I think for new advisors, people just coming in, those graphics are a big, big help.
Yeah.
It can help you understand the process much quicker, understand how particular steps in the process go together.
Yeah.
Perhaps the first 3 steps, setting goals, assessing resources, and value drivers, those are sort of the foundation.
Right.
Then the main event is either going to be the sale to an outsider or an insider transfer, and then there's the legacy part of it.
Yeah, and what I like about what you're talking about in the chart you're using, that's at the very front end. It's almost, it could be part of the engagement process. It could be a first meeting you're having with a prospective client to illustrate some of the challenges that may or may not be there because you don't know yet.
That's right.
It's a way for you to gather information.
And BEI's tools for doing that are terrific.
Yeah, they are. So thank you for that. But what this does is it's a way to have a visual image, not of value of the company, not an org chart of the company, things like that, which we tend not to do anyway. But it's what the issues the owner may face.
Correct. But it's also, you lay it out, any exit planning process is going to have some iteration of each of those 7 steps.
Right.
But it helps the owner figure out, where do I want to start? Because you don't have to start at 1.
Right.
Actually, probably in many situations, the most logical place to start is with continuity, which
Absolutely.
would be step 6.
Yeah.
If something happens, the owner dies or becomes disabled, suddenly, what do you do?
Yeah, because that's a concern that we often address right away. We know what the goals are, the resources are. Now, how do we make those goals realized if the owner dies suddenly? That is typical in exit planning, and that gives us time to go back and address these other steps as well.
And-
Even in that, Andy, not to interrupt, but just doing business continuity planning, if you did the graphs and charts that showed where the potential issues were in an ownership transfer, that could really influence the design of the continuity plan, the buy-sell plan, whatever. That would really be instructive for estate planning attorneys.
Well, at root, it could mean that upon a death or something of a death or disability of the owner, there's not going to be a company anymore,
Yeah,
or it's going to be
absolutely.
vastly reduced in value. Let's protect the goose that lays the golden egg
Yeah,
here.
and it could have been the owner that was was the glue holding everything together.
That
She's now
is the
passed
issue.
away, and now it breaks loose. Yeah.
And speaking to that, I've given it a lot of thought, particularly in the last few days. We talk about setting goals. I think it's very important for business owners to start setting goals and having a vision when they start in the business, because otherwise there can be a risk that they will never get beyond the garage stage,
Yeah.
where they've just established it and been a solopreneur.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of scenarios, I think that's accurate. That startup entrepreneur, although they probably don't have much money, maybe be different in some scenarios, they may need to get some help to set those goals, because they haven't done it before. They may not be able to envision all of the goals that they have.
I heartily agree.
Yeah.
And but they have gone into the business in many cases, their goal being dinner next week.
Yeah.
Being able to survive economically, and what they've done in many cases just created a job for themselves.
Yeah.
That will go away when something happens to them. So it's important that business owners who want to, and if you want to just be a solopreneur, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to grow, start thinking about that early on. And we look at goals when someone is getting ready to exit. And I cannot stress strongly enough the importance of setting those exit goals.
It's hard to exit without.
If
Getting-
my experience is that if a business owner has not been able to do that, there's a very good chance that they will not exit plan.
Right? They just want, yeah. But they may not even think they need to exit plan.
Well, that's a good point, because maybe an owner doesn't need to exit or doesn't want to exit.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean they don't need a plan, because upon their demise, something is going to happen with that business, and his family or her family is still going to have financial needs.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to plan around that. And then, I tell people, this is your business. Nope, you don't have to exit
Right.
plan. And I guess that's a point too. I see business owners who talk about exit planning, they're aware of it intellectually, but not internally. They haven't internalized it.
Right.
So they don't really know where they're going.
Yeah, and the problem is that unless they do internalize it, they may sell their business. Intellectually, that was a great decision, but they're unhappy after the sale. So
Yes.
but I think that's our job as exit planning advisors to help them do that, because they just may not realize it, or they may not be able to deal with it.
Right. And in many cases, the business is a lot of their social structure of their life.
Right.
Because they're there so much and they interact with the people that they work with so much, remove that from their lives, and it can be very difficult for them. And none of us want to see a client sell and then feel seller's remorse. Maybe not because he didn't get the price, but because he doesn't know or she doesn't know what she wants to do. So I really stress that. Just last week, I was sitting with a gentleman. He had talked to me about 3 years ago about exit planning, and we had some nice meetings, and he just wasn't ready to go forward. He said, when I'm ready to sell, I'll call you. Well, he called me a few weeks ago, and we met. And what's holding him up is, what will I do?
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, that's why we plan.
Yes. I mean, stories of people that start exit planning and then disappear.
They're legion.
Yeah, and it's usually because they're uncertain of what they want to do. They can tell everyone in the business what they need to do. Yeah. It's like the old adage, I can solve your problems, I just can't solve my own. And that's what these folks feel.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's really important as an exit planner not to get frustrated or angry, because it's easy to do when you prepare for a meeting and then it's canceled at the last minute. You have to realize that is part of your client, and you take your client as you find them.
Excellent.
Thanks for listening. Join us for our next episode. For more content like this, please visit exitplanning.com.